no invade attempts, and we'll hold that, right?
Well,
gotta wait.
We got a little bit of time to decide.
Gotta wait for 10 seconds. But assuming no invade attempts, we're finally gonna see this genetics tier support unperturbed at its full glory.
And it's going to be a difficult game for him to play it into. I mean, a lot of these characters are going to be very hard to hit that Fearless on. Morgan, a lot of self-peel. Kemba has that instant immune jump and ultimate. Ares can lock him down, and there's also knock-him immune in that Flames. So this is going to be a pretty big test for him. I don't think it was the most valuable tier game, but for the most part, dual lane should be won. We've seen this Izanami with Tainted before from Netroid. It's very hard to lane against. He's very tanky. He clears waves well. But I mean, you're playing this tier into that counter matchup Ares lane, where if he ever hits chains, your entire kit is basically nullified. I am a little worried with how much he's going to be able to get done. I think this is going to be a very difficult game for him. But he locked it in, seeing most of this draft by the Dragons. It's really just that Ares that was locked in after.
Feeling a bit of confidence on this pick, to be sure, and I think unsurprising, we would expect that lane to get pressure. We'll have to see around that second buff spawn, where the junglers end up, maybe at the shield camp, if they do want to try and put some additional pressure over, look for some buff invades as to where Panatom ends up. But then these mages as well, they were mentioning on the desk, right? This Morgan Le Fay paired with the Opwash. On the other side, you get two mages as well. And we thought we might see the MLF versus the Raijin, as that might be the favored matchup there. Instead, ends up being the Opwash going up against the Raijin on that right-hand side. It's a little bit of extra pressure for that Raijin into the Opwash, or would you rather have had the Morgan Le Fay over there?
Yeah, it's just a slight advantage for that Morgan Le Fay, or for that Raijin. A little bit of pressure over here on the left. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of damage left.
Wow. I mean,
maybe
the slowdown, the body blocks Mike under more pressure than he was expecting. Looks like he will make it out of there with a surviving health bar, though. That got a lot closer than I expected.
Yeah, me too. And Genetic's still looking to bully out, and this is kind of how you have to play that tier. You want to play to bully, because the tier from behind is a lot less useful. Actually, can't get a right lane, and Nika goes down to that damage. Aegis was just used, but just too much burst by Solo and Panatom there.
Genetics is walking under this tier 1 tower, just sort of calling the bluff here, walks under for free. But you're right, that first blood over towards the Oni Warriors. Pressure on the left side of the map, and pressure forced by Panatom on that right side of the map as they'll take down Nika for first blood. And they still might be able to push this left buff invader or shield camp, right? And then my question goes to Lasbra. If they have pressure on both the side lanes, what are you doing with that jungle space that Lasbra has? Looks like he'll invade the enemy speed instead.
Yeah, Lasbra seems to like to opt to go for the speed buff when both side lanes are losing, and at this point, there's really not a great opportunity for him to make a play in either lane. Mike is sitting very squishy on duo side, and on the other side, Nika, no Aegis available, still only level 4, so neither really fightable. Actually, Mike might go down here.
Gotta be careful there, off the mark with the chains. And he saw Genetics in the camera for just a second, talking a little bit of trash. They do get that second kill over on the left side. Meanwhile, Lasbra just stealing camps left and right. He stole that speed in the back. Looks like he'll steal the purple as well. Doug, did he steal that speed in the left and just leave one minion up? Is that because that buff is still... No, okay. I thought he was going to be that would have been a little bit too toxic for me.
That would have been a little something.
Just to leave one minion up. Ultimate dropped on the right-hand side, where Panatom continues to put that pressure down, and despite a lot of damage, I mean, Nika's been under a lot of pressure on this side lane early on.
Yeah, it seems like Panatom has established that solo lane is the side he wants to play towards, and Genetics is going to kind of act like a pseudo-jungler on duo side of the map. This tier, not a traditional support. There's not a ton of, you know, normal Guardian stuff, good peel, something like that. He's basically playing to be a nuisance right now, just try to slow down the Jade Dragons dual lane from farming as much as possible. I wouldn't be too surprised if you see him start walking towards those back camps, getting that deep vision, because he's playing to, you know, get this lead and to actually punish as much as he can, because this tier will fall off in that late game.
Yeah, especially as a warrior support in general, but this tier, the war others, ultimate down from Netroid, trying to force fate Forest Coast. But I mean, this is the type of pressure you have, just holding the wave a little bit, calling the bluff of the Jade Dragon, saying you can either stand there and lose some farm, or you can push up and fight us. I'm not sure they're willing to have the fight just yet. I mean, 5 minutes in, right? This is maybe the pace that you are looking for the Oni Warriors to set. Already about a 1,500 gold lead. And my question, like, for the Jade Dragons, where do you want to draw that line in the sand? Is it this next round of buff invades that you need to get Lasbra involved in, or are you okay waiting a little bit longer and letting your guys getting to, you know, 1-2 items maybe?
Well, it seems like he needs to start making a play soon, and a little 3v3 is breaking out on the right side.
Wow, Lasbra does come over for the invade. He might get punished for it, though, forced into the bat of hell, and will make it out of there alive, as does SoloOrTroll. Luckily, though, makes the space for the blue buff to be secured by Nika, and will just back off and secure his own blue buff. So at the very least, he walks over, helps his team secure his own blue buff. You're right, though. Nika coming over for the damage, but off the mark with the abilities. SoloOrTroll playing with fire a little bit. Nika finally grabs his blue buff.
Yeah, Nika confirming that blue buff. Mike actually looking to pressure out this red, hits the chain. Unable to get either of the buffs. Fortunately for the Warriors, they confirm both. But that fight on the right side, this op wash with this Pythag spike at this point, here's something you really have to be wary of, because that ultimate covers a lot of area, and it's also going to be doing a lot of damage. And Solo was sitting in it a little bit too long and took too much damage. So blue buff confirmed for the Jade Dragons. And you were talking about where do I want to see them kind of make that stand. I think that is a perfect time to make it. You're getting spikes out of everyone. You got the book on your Morgan, Jotun's on your jungler, Pythag's on your solo laner. So you have these item spikes allowing you to defend that blue buff. And now giving that blue buff over to Nika gives him a little bit more farm. And it's more about that farm than the blue buff. You're not really worried about mana issues on Opwash, especially with that Vamp Shroud. But just getting that farm, kind of trying to slow down the game, keeping you in a good spot. I think that's a good play. And Mike even now trying to bully out on those backs.
Trying to stay aggressive. Might get punished here, though. Dash in, and Ares forced to run the other way. Polar Bear Mike falls. 3rd kill now for the Oni Warriors. And Panatom's got one. Pagon's got one. Netroid's got one. There's a kill on all of these carries for the Warriors. You can't ask for a much better start.
No, this is the start you want when you're playing this Oni Warriors comp also. That Izanami, that tier, that duo lane for the Warriors is not going to be something that scales as well as the Hachiman, as the Ares, even though Ares is kind of considered like a warrior guardian. A little bit of a tussle here.
Be careful if you're Lasbra.
That's dash.
It's the dash early. Panatom forced into that CC immunity, but the damage comes through, and Dardes grabs the first one for the Dragons. Lasbra a little bit low, and Genetics in the vicinity, but might be a fight over on the right side, and Nika takes all 4 of the drums. Genetics not there in time, though, to follow up, so the fight will fizzle out, I think, just before this blue buff spawns.
Looks like 4 strong by the Dragons. Want to make sure they get this blue buff again. 3-man grouped on it. Dardes walks back mid, and I think about Dardes, I'm wanting to just try to get farm as much as possible. I'm not worried too much about that blue buff, because we've seen from Dardes this entire weekend, if he gets that farm online, he will carry these games.
He has been more farm-oriented, but with these rotations coming through, especially around the soul lane, and with how active these supports have been, I thought it might just be Genetics, but I mean, PBM dying in the enemy jungle, being there to try and steal some of those buffs away, perhaps this is part of the reason why you get the Ares pick. You don't necessarily have to be a warrior support to try and be aggressive in particular. But I think, I mean, going back to these supports, Genetics build catches my eye a little bit. This round shield as that second item, I mean, I don't think I've ever considered
the double fearless.
Goodness, the Blinking double fearless, Vaporish Coast forced into the ultimate, and will make it under the tier 1 tower. Genetics gets pulled back, but no kills will fall. That came out of nowhere, and that's just what the tier brings.
Yeah, that's that tier playmaking potential. Blink is available, and he's going to be looking for it. Fortunately, does not get that kill, does not pull relics onto Coast either, and Coast ends up living. Plays it very, very well. Panatom actually blinks on Mike. Mike's got nothing here, he's just dead.
Gotta be careful, and he was not careful.
He was not careful.
No, he thought he might have been safe around that purple buff, but does fall another kill to the Oni Warriors. And wanted to talk, I mean, that's 0-3 for Mike on this area. Still only a level down, but I mean, regardless, we've talked about this before, Guardian versus Warrior, those base stats are gonna help you out a lot.
Yeah, base stats for sure will be helping him, but I mean, when you're already 0-3 and he's kind of been looking to keep playing aggressive, when you're falling behind on Ares, yes, you still have like that kind of somewhat protection base from the Guardian's base stats, but it's still just a very easy god to kill. Not a lot of safety in a dash or something that can kind of sprint you away from a situation. He also goes for the aggressive relic with that blink. He's now sitting down 2 levels to Genetics. Genetics is really putting out and throwing his weight around on this tier.
And we talked about pressure crutchers in the interview.
We did.
That's 2 levels there for both of the dual lane members briefly, Genetics and Netroid. This Izanami has really kept up that pressure on the left-hand side. And Lasber, once again, maybe just content to farm a little bit and make sure he's on time for these blue buff invades. And if that's the lane that you want to put things around, sure, you can be there for the blue buff invade. That's the same time that the Gold Fury is going down here, though. And the Oni Warriors maybe conditioning Lasber a little bit. Right as soon as that blue buff spawns, they go over to the Gold Fury to get it for free.
It's just a free Gold Fury and a free purple buff, so more than just the purple or Gold Fury for blue buff almost trade, because they've been putting so much pressure onto that blue buff. They also confirmed the purple buff. So far, early portion of this game, kind of just all Warriors. Yeah, a couple plays, Dardes gets that 1 kill onto Panatom when Panatom was in their jungle. But outside of this, it just seems like the Warriors are the ones starting these fights, and the Warriors are the ones confirming a lot of these kills also.
Yeah, I think where I was going with it, like Lasbra has a lot of focus towards that right-hand side, and sure enough, you're helping out Nika, who has not fallen behind here, still even with the Raijin on the other side. But if you're going to put this pressure in the solo lane, maybe you're asking when you want to start seeing those rotations, perhaps for the next Gold Fury, but you gotta be careful here for Nika. There's 3 Oni Warriors members here on the right-hand side, and push up against the locker. Genetics takes down the kill, and they shut down Nika.
And one of the things that Netroid does really well is when there's a solo lane play being made, he will happily give up the pressure on the left side of the map. He's up a level and a half, almost 2 levels over here, but he's just happy to kind of let Coast push up to his tower, and he'll just soak it as it comes under. And that's something a lot of ADCs kind of make that mistake with, where plays being made on one side, and you try to match it on the other, and you get punished for it. But Beacon spawns, 12 minutes, little fight here.
Warriors take that tower on the right-hand side. It's a man advantage there in the mid lane. So it will be Beacon to the Jade Dragons. That's maybe the only semblance of pressure that they've got, though, is in that middle lane. And even then, Dardes, maybe behind a little bit, has lost out on that first bastion. So Pagon been quietly farming over here in the mid lane with that early kill he was able to get. But now Genetics, they've gotten the left lane pressure. Netroid's over there. He's got a 1.5 level lead. He is an Izanami that does not really have to be worried about it necessarily. And now, blue buff respawning. They shut down Nika once. Nika's still with both relics down for the next 10 seconds, and Genetics is just being a nuisance. And I have to say, like, that's why you have to pick the tier.
Yeah, I mean, that's the entire reason to pick it. You want to pull these relics. You want to kind of throw your weight around early. And with all these relics getting pulled by Panatom, Solo, whoever it is, Genetics needs to be the one that is there and that is punishing those relics being down, because that's the value of the tier. The ability to kind of just confirm kills for free on somebody that does not have relics. And when you pair it with this Mammon, tier gives all the CC you need. Mammon brings all the damage, so it's a really good pairing on the dive. And even now, you see Genetics just bullying Lasber out of his own jungle.
SoloOrTroll with the rotation over to the left-hand side. They trade ultimates there. Lasbra, using the Bat out of Hell, has to force it in. Dardes, maybe under some pressure as well. This is an early rotation, it feels like, for SoloOrTroll, but he's finished up those 3 items. It's both defense items online. They try to turn something around. They've got to be careful if you're the Oni Warriors. Sot gets out, but he might be pulled back in. Good beads will save him from that fate. With the Gold Fury in just 30 or 45 seconds or so, that's a good relic burn for the Dragons.
Yeah, good relic burn. Now they have an opportunity to take down Solo. I think that is a little bit of a weird rotation there by Solo. There's really nothing that you're able to get unless you're pushing down that middle tower. And it didn't seem like middle tower was even in their sights. It seemed like just walking into the enemy jungle is what they preferred. So now, SoloOrTroll rotating back right, trying to get that right wave pushed out. Seems like the Warriors are trying to set up for this Pyro. Net's already rotated over here. 4 or 5 strong here, and the Dragons are not going to answer.
Positioned for it are the Warriors, and as you mentioned, nobody from the Jade Dragon
Fire?
is willing to step up. This would be crazy. 14 minutes, but edging on 15, and they're looking for the Fire Giant. Might just be the bait, though, as PBM is in with the blink. Lasbra on the other side of the fight, and in with the damage. Taking a lot of the focus is PBM, but Lasbra is on the backside alone, and now the carries are in. Dardes looking for some damage, and SoloOrTroll has to leave the fight. Look for Costo. The dash and the stun burns the beads off of Netroid. So they try to pull the Fire Giant. Lasbra, no, gives away his life for an attempt on Zot's life. They bait the Fire Giant. They do end up getting one.
Yeah, I was going to say, a little bit of a weird Fire Giant pull with no frenzy. There's very low opportunity unless nobody by the Dragon shows up for the last minute. But with that play on the right side, the Dragons have a free opportunity for this gold.
Looks like they will head over towards it, and I'm not sure anybody from the Oni Warriors can get there in time. The Dragons take advantage, use that opportunity, and I was going to ask pacing-wise, right? We knew that they would be involved early. Good knock up there from Dardes will keep him away from the Fearless. Poorish Ghost, got to be careful, has to make sure that he makes it out, has to use the ultimate. It's a little bit more than I expected, get the blink off of Panatom. But I mean, for pacing-wise, right, we were very happy with the early game. They've got this extremely aggressive draft. They controlled the sides of the map pretty well. At this 16-minute mark, leading into that 20-minute mark, and maybe the respawn of these next couple of objectives, is this a gold lead that you're happy with if you're the Warriors? Have you accomplished your early game goals?
Yeah, I think this is a comfortable spot to be in. I think you still have an opportunity to push this even more, get deeper wards, play for the back camps, play for the reds, the purples, and also get this tier 1 tower down and left. Towers have a lot of gold in them, and if you can get those towers earlier before the even Fire Giant gets threatened, because a lot of the times we see these early Fire Giants, it's on the basis of having like a Frenzy and a Bracer. As you can see on the Warrior side, it's Beads, Aegis, and Blink. Those are the only 3 relics everyone on their team has. So that's what they have. They have these really good combat relics, not really PvE relics. So something to pay attention to is maybe something more for towers, something more for team fights, and less around the Fire Giant.
And Genetics is almost a jungler here. Like
Yeah.
He has Blink Beads. He is the same level as Lasbra on the other side, just trying to make things happen. You have to imagine that might make the front line of the Oni Warriors a little bit more squishy. We talk about problems when you go double mage here in the solo support. It's not. It's mage and warrior, but we've got third item, Winged Blade. Hold that thought, though. Close. Maybe under some pressure here. That ultimate just barely down and about to come back up. They've got to be careful for this rotation. Panatom can't stick around much longer on this left-hand side. I think they want to make sure that Netroid continues to get a little bit of help, especially you mentioned that tier 1 tower, but it's a big grouping by the Dragons on the air.
Yeah, it seems like even Nika's rotated over. Now we're 5 strong, and Solo's still pushing down right. Nika does reset. Looks like he's going to go answer right. And with that play in left, it looked like they were just trying to bully out Kosh to play for this tower. Fortunately for the Dragons, they see it, and they rotate a bunch of people over, and that seems why Nika rotated. Now 2 strong. Tower's going to be going down.
Yeah, they do look for the push. They will find it successfully. Hard to stop an Izanami from pushing even when she's by herself. But at this point, you get a level 17 Izanami on the map, taking down the tier 1 tower, and it's a huge lead for the Oni Warriors, not only in gold, which we talked about a couple of times, 7,000 almost, but also experience heavily in their favor. 2 levels for Solo, 3 levels in the jungle, a level at least everywhere else, but I'm looking at 3 levels in the support role as well. Genetics has been doing a ton of work farming throughout this map, and it's going to lead them to yet another objective. Pyromancer goes down, and a Runic Bomb now in the pocket of Genetics. Have to feel like a lot of this pressure is being pushed by this tier support. I mean, when does this sort of playstyle fall off? If you're the Dragons, what time period are you trying to make it to?
I mean, the Dragons kind of want to push this to like 25, 26 minimum. I think when it comes to objectives, I think Tyr has a slightly harder time because he's very blink reliant. Coast actually playing up a little bit. Panatom's stun is still available, but Coast ults out.
Wow, that was a lot of damage.
Wait,
from the
Dardes?
ultimate. Dardes on the rotation over. Panatom cannot continue the chase, has to leave instead. Still, you burn a couple of ultimates there. 3 on the side of the Warriors down. Includes Pagon's jump, of course, but 2 on the side of the Dragons. That's right before this Oni period. response as well.
Yeah, and bullying out indeed, and with this big XP, this gold lead, the Warriors still kind of need to keep pushing this lead. They shouldn't be happy. I mean, yes, 8,000 is good, but there's still a lot of plays on the map available for the Dragons, a lot of split push potential. You don't have great objective burn if you're on the Warriors, so something for trade opportunities for the Dragons is always going to be there. With SoloOrTroll pushing down right side, 4 strong on the left for the Warriors, and this entire time still, Oni Fury's up, tier 2 towers up, a lot of gold available.
Jade Dragons, like they are going to give this one away yet again. Can't step up to it. And I mean, I keep going back to this level lead, right? You've got 2 levels now in the jungle, but that's 4 levels in support. That is a level 12 Polar Bear Mike. He just now has gotten that second relic online, has grabbed the bracer for his squad, but he's still not going to have that upgraded starter for another 3 levels here. I mean, it really feels like it's slowing down any potential aggression you could be getting from Mike, but that's not to say, I mean, they have to step up to this Fire Giant if they want to defend, and PBM is level 13. How can you step up here? But they've got 4 members in close. They're going to try and steal it away. Dragons. They do! They take the Fire Giant away, and Genetic still trying to put the damage down, but they're looking to trade it out and make room for the rest of the Warriors. A 4-man ultimate grabs 2, but Panatom grabs Dardes, and Mike will fall as well. A 2 for Fire Giant trade for the Dragons.
And not the worst play there for the Dragons. Yes, a couple go down, but Fire Giant on 3, 2 tier 2 towers, 2 towers in the left lane, 4 coast. Also kind of slows down this gold lead a little bit. Yes, they're going to be losing their right tower, but anything to kind of slow down this game is going to be very beneficial for the Jade Dragons. And with pushing down right here, not really an opportunity to siege unless they get a kill.
They tried to slow things down by taking this Fire Giant, but not going to slow down the siege. Panatom Detroit is hitting this bird. Nika trying to stand in front. Panatom gets punished, but the Phoenix will go down, as will Netroid. And SoloOrTroll on the dash in as Nika's looking to take the 1v1 versus Pagon. Such low health bars, and we'll find the double kill as Zot, low health bar from him as well, will get punished. 4 fall for the Oni Warriors, but they get that right bird.
If Lasber just backs, they defend that without actually losing it, but Lasber greeds out the farm in the left lane, and then they actually end up giving up that Phoenix. And when you don't have Fire Giant on the Warriors, that is a good trade. If you have Fire Giant on 3 or something like that, and you're trading it for that Phoenix, it's a little less worth, but you didn't have Fire Giant. This was the Dragons having the advantage with Fire on 3, and you're the one that comes out with that Fire Giant. Really, I mean, good macro by the Warriors, but just a bad answer by the Dragons.
Lasbra potentially thinking about how he might have been able to defend there, right? But with that Phoenix down, have to answer the question of what you still want to get in for the Jade Dragons. They still have the Fire Giant around their waist for another couple of minutes here. This Pyromancer will at least be an answer here. They grab that tier 1 in left, as you mentioned. They grab those towers in left as well during the entire steal attempt. And a lot of gold does get answered back. You're absolutely right. Look at those charts. That drop down has been massive for the Jade Dragons. Only 1,200 now separate these 2 teams. And I think if you're the Dragons, you get that back. You get the experience lead back. People are starting to hit level 20, right? You don't have to be as worried about those deficits. And you feel a lot more comfortable in getting ready to step up to these next couple of objectives.
You were talking Mike 3 levels away from getting that next starter. He finishes it about a minute and a half later with just getting that advantage at Fire Giant. So big for them. Mike is now able to actually do stuff in this fight, not just kind of sit back and just become fodder for the enemy team. And along with that starter, he's also getting that bracer upgraded. So now Mike, even at this point down 2 levels, is just as useful in the fight as Genetics is.
Well, Genetics, I'm once again going back to that tankiness answer, right? He has 2 of those daggers in the build, right? As well as a solo item in that Glad Shield potentially. And so I'm not sure he's as tanky as Mike, even from 2 levels ahead, but hold that thought. Lasbra under some pressure here. Pagon is behind the entirety of the Dragons. Genetics is looking for the in-game. BBM with a 2-man ultimate pulls nobody back, but look at Pagon. He comes in from the backside, and Panatom's looking for some damage as well. Mike will fall. Nika looking to fall down as well. They trade one back, but Lasra might be the saving grace. He gets SoloOrTroll, needs one more to even out the fight. Looking to just survive at this point. It's Pagon by himself, pushes the rest of the Dragons out.
Ends up being a 2-for-2 there. It looks really good for the Warriors there, but Pagon had no abilities after chasing out Lasbra and kind of bullying him out a little bit. Fortunately, though, not able to get anything really done in those fights. And it seems like this tier, I mean, still a lot of plays being made by Genetics. Yes, he is a Warrior. He will be falling off, but he's still happy to ult in there and look for the all-in on the mic. Seems like if maybe Netroid is a little bit farther into that build, maybe there's more threat on the mic. But as is, Net's not really threatening Mike all too much.
He's got this build, finishes out with that Titan's Bane. Still everybody looking to sell those recipes, except for the Soul Lane SoloOrTroll does have that last item finished out. But I mean, so far, the gold lead pretty much evened up here. 3,000 gold, not sure I'm really caring about it at 25, 26 minutes in. And as we reach that 26-minute point, this was where you mentioned the Jade Dragons were looking to make it here. And so, have to ask about the team fights, right? 5-on-5s around this next Fire Giant. You scaled a little bit to maybe where you want to be if you're the Dragons. What are they looking for to this next team fight?
Still not EFG, so it's not an end of the world this year. You want to make sure you get that right Phoenix up, which they mostly have. They have one more Fire Wave to worry about. But you're still down like a little bit. You're still about 6 items deep on the Warrior side, and on the Dragon side, only sitting about 5. So this is still not a fight where you're just, we have to take it, we cannot lose here. This is still something you can play a little bit slower, maybe play for poke a little bit, and if you win the poke trade, maybe you look for the all-in. But we've seen this 1v1 before. This is not a winnable 1v1 for the most part for Mammon. That's one that really benefits Camazot's really good poke endure, and then you also have that really good all-in potential and can avoid a lot of her damage.
The damage comes out quick for the Camazots. You've seen that before. I think Panatom has to be aware of that. He's got quick damage too. He's really the only player that's been building this Polynomicon on the Mammon, so has some quick damage in his own right. We could see that 1v1. As it is now though, only Warriors with the positioning around this Fire Giant. At 27 minutes, they don't want to contest this, they don't want to bait it, they're just trying to catch the Dragons out. You gotta be careful. Lasbra here finds himself behind the entirety of the enemy team right there. Will not get caught by that dash for SoloOrTroll, but this Pyromancer response, I think, likely to go down for free. Surprised it's not just a standard Fire Giant bait. Instead, they're looking for picks.
Dragon's not too comfortable with their ability to do Fire Giant right now. No Frenzy, no Sustain outside of, you know, Typhons or Innate Lifesteal. So not going to be easy Fire Giants. Genix looking to zone right now as the rest of the team is doing fire.
He's walking in up against the 5, and the Fire Giant is falling down low. The Warriors secure it this time around. The Jade Dragons on the chase. Lasbra up front, and PBM with an ultimate grabs nobody because of the beads. Pagon
I got no relics
to try and dash away, but no relics available. Will find the gray screen, and Nika gets the last hit on that one. But good zoning from Genetics at least grabs them the fire.
A really good chase out there by the Jade Dragons, at least getting something, you know, for losing that Fire Giant. Pull those beads, those relics both down on Pagon. And you also have beads now down on Genetics for at least a little bit. Going to be slowing down this Fire Giant. Now, if you're sitting here, if you're the Warriors, you have regular Fire Giant on 4. You don't have that true tank that we've talked about. We've kind of beat into the ground that this tier is not a normal support. This is not something that builds full defense. It doesn't tank a bunch. It's kind of like a weird zoner, almost a jungler at some points, at least in the early game, where it kind of just plays to slow down the enemy team. And when it's more 5-on-5, when there's no jungle you can kind of wrap around, it makes these sieges a lot harder. It seems like the Warriors are kind of not ready to start pushing right now. They want to get some deeper vision, kind of wait for Pagon to get alive. Now you have Fire Giant on 4. Pagon doesn't have it. No relics on Pagon.
Well, I mean, if they can't engage with this tier, how does this siege look to go? Are you trying to catch the Dragons out in the jungle, perhaps? I mean, Lasbra is, we've got to keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't accidentally run into 4 Warriors players here, as he's deep in the enemy jungle. This still is not enhanced Fire Giant, but you're going to have some Oni waves. You're going to have at least a couple of shots at this. Still one tier 2 tower left up there. Are you full on trying to push down a Phoenix even so with this tough siege composition?
I don't think you are. I think you're just going to try to play to get this last tier 1 tower in left, and maybe SoloOrTroll or Panatom can look for a pick in mid and win that 2v2 in mid, because this is a pretty unwinnable left-hand fight. I mean, you have good poke, yes, but you don't have the ability to kind of create a lot of space, not like that Opwash can. Raijin has to stay mid, kind of try to push that out. Raijin actually looking to go right, which I actually think this is their best opportunity. Raijin with his Fire Giant has decent opportunity to actually go for that Phoenix.
Gonna try to split push here. They've got the Oni waves pushing in left, in mid, in right, as well as these Tiamat minions if those two pose a threat to that Phoenix. The Jade Dragons have to be careful they do not get caught out on a bit of macro play here. They're gonna have to be defending all 3 Phoenixes simultaneously as the Warriors try to split around and take the advantage on this lowered Phoenix, right? Has respawn, but not back to full HP, and will not make it back to full HP. The Oni waves came and went, and they didn't even find an engage.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough siege for them. This is not free by any means. This is going to be actually very difficult. Lasper actually gets chunked.
Wow, lots of damage coming through, and SoloOrTroll will be forced into the ultimate all the while. The left side, they try to find an engage of their own, but that ultimate coming through from Nika forces them out for the time being, as PBM almost by himself continues to slow down that siege on the right-hand side, and now ultimate economy goes down a little bit. You lose it from Pagon, you lose it from SoloOrTroll, you lose a couple on the side of the Dragons as well, as the Oni Warriors just constant pressure outside of the birds.
Fire Giant is dropping soon. So it's either this push or nothing. This is what their Warriors have to look for. Yes, they can still play for that EFG.
Blinking from Genetics on the left-hand side, and a simultaneous engagement there on the right, but that space is all you needed if you're Netroid. Panatom,
and right.
He's trying to survive and will not be successful. Meanwhile, they get the right bird as well. They force the Dragons to split, to choose a side to defend, and the Dragons lose both side lane Phoenixes because of it. In fact, Dardes has to be careful here. Sot burning the ultimate. They try to punish him as he's looking for the escape. Now watch Lasbra on the wraparound deep into the enemy jungle. Sot, this dash is coming up in a couple of seconds, but they're still gonna try and chase this one down. The temporal beads bring the dash back up, and Sot will survive.
And this Raijin just has so much cooldown potential. The safety from him with how many dashes he has is through the roof, but with this Fire Giant spawning, this is an EFG, and Panatom is still down for 15. Also looking at the relic situation, not great for the Dragons, and looking pretty good for the Warriors outside of Solo's beads.
These ultimates close to coming back up. Everybody here. Dardes, he was defending those Phoenixes, but now coming back to the Fire Giant. It's clear the Jade Dragons want to stand tall here. They have to make this play around the EFG. So far, they'll start with the Pyromancer. I thought they might have just hopped on it initially, but instead, they were looking for a pick. They couldn't find one on Desat, and now they've got to back off, concede pressure onto that EFG.
They got to get these waves pushed out now, and when you push those waves, you show on the waves, which gives the Warriors an opportunity to either look for a pick or look for this Fire Giant. But that Fire Giant, as you can see with that Bracer, is still warded. So the Dragons know it's not been pulled yet. It looks like they understand the Warriors want to play for picks. That Fire Giant burn is not great, but the pick potential is insane.
Yeah, I mean, 50% of the Fire Giants so far have been stolen in this game, right? That's a pretty fun stat.
That is.
Half of them have been stolen. Genetics and Sot looking for the engage. Fine. PBM and the silence there delays the ultimate. He only pulls back in one. Pagon, he jumps in on his lonesome, and he'll trade out for Mike. You lose 1-for-1, but the mid lane are down for the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is taking any 1-for-1 trade right now and celebrating. Yes, left is shoving down a little bit, so there's a little bit of an opening for the Warriors, but keep in mind, they do not burn this.
Don't burn this very fast. They're 4 onto it, and the Lasbra, Vaporish Ghost, they know about it as this Ring of Fire spawns. Looks like they're gonna stay around it. All the while, though, nobody is defending these waves. You've got a left-hand minion wave, a right-hand minion wave as well. And once again, the Warriors pick up the Fire Giant.
Dardes shows.
The response. Dardes is not going to be here. Nika, though, doesn't have ultimate either. And they grab the Fearless around the wall. Nika is knocked up and will fall down. Netroid grabs the Soul Laner. And these picks are good for the Oni Warriors. They're just trying to force the bait in. Last round takes a ton of damage. Will find his way out with the Batter to Hell. But that's enough space and an EFG for the Warriors.
Solo, no beads available or ult. I was curious to see if Mike was actually going to be able to find him with that blink, but he had no ult available. EFG on 5, Pegon spawns back. With the 2 outer Phoenixes down, the Warriors are just rushing it right now.
Got to find this Phoenix preferably while Nika is still on the gray screen. 30 seconds before that op wash is back and available. And you've got a group. Mike off the mark with the ultimate. Hits nobody. Well, a couple of beads were down there. Pagon still no relics, and they've got to back off and give away that mid Phoenix. You get the ultimate trade from Dardes, but this Titan is so low, it's just a full commit onto it, and the Oni Warriors take game 1.
And, I mean, this could have been a lot faster with how much that early game was going in favor of the Warriors. That if you don't steal that one Fire Giant and get a couple wins there for the Dragons, we're talking about probably a much faster